2021 CR 7282, State of Texas versus Charles Garley. Can I have parties announced for the record for the state?
Daniel Escobar for the state of Texas.
Mario Moreno for the defendant.
Are you Mr. Garley? Mr. Garley, I'm showing you what's entitled Court Admonishments and Defendants Waivers and Affidavit of Admonitions. Did you review that document with your attorney? Did you understand it? Did you sign it in all the appropriate places?
Yes.
Did you understand you're charged with the offense of assault on a peace officer or judge causing bodily injury? As a second-degree felony, the range of punishment is anywhere from 2 to 20 years in prison and up to $10,000 fine. Did you understand? Did you understand if the court were to grant your application for deferred adjudication, if for any reason your deferred adjudication were revoked, the court could find you guilty and sentence you up to 20 years in prison and up to $10,000 fine? Counsel, has your client been able to provide you with any defenses?
Yes,
Showing you the plea bargain page. Did you review that with your attorney? Did you understand it? According to the plea, there's a $300 fine and the state recommends deferred adjudication. Did you understand that to be the plea?
Yes.
Defense?
yes, sir.
State?
Yes.
Next, I'm showing you outside the plea bargain agreement. State is requesting that your deferred adjudication be for a term of 2 years. There be 100 hours community service restitution, no contact with Gabriel Ortelajo, Artalejo, and Aaron Dial, Dial, and anger management. Did you understand those are recommendations from the state? And the court does not have to follow those recommendations. Then to the offenses charged in count 2, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
No contest.
State any evidence?
Your Honor, state all receipts exhibit 1 and all attachments.
No objection.
Will accept into evidence states exhibits 1 and attachments and review the same. All right, after reviewing states exhibits 1 and attachments, the court will find there's sufficient evidence to find you guilty. The court would defer finding of guilt as you've applied for deferred adjudication. Are we proceeding with sentencing?
Yes, sir.
Anything you wish to say on behalf of your client?
Not at this time.
Mr. Garley, are you still with the person who's listed as your girlfriend in here? All right, so what steps have you all taken to handle your, I don't want to say disagreements, but your discussions differently?
At this moment, we have no discussion. The only issue was I'm being charged with.
No, I'm talking about the facts of this case. The police came to your door, not because, hey, we're just walking around. This is like a door we should knock on. I've read in the police report that there was some issue and you wanted her to leave. So she's calling her family saying, I'm leaving. So what I've discovered in my time on the planet is whatever problems that people have in their relationships, when they don't unpack that suitcase and address it, it's still there. It's just waiting to come up whenever it wants to come up. So whatever discussion you all were having at that apartment where you told her you didn't want her there anymore, you wanted her to leave, unless you all have addressed that issue, it is still there, waiting to be unpacked. And it's going to be unpacked while you're on probation. And when you're on probation, you're looking at potentially 20 years in the prison if that suitcase is unpacked improperly. Do you understand?
At this time, there's no issues.
So how many children do you have? What are their ages?
16 months and 1 on the way. 2 months. Due April.
And it's never great when a couple gets in an argument and then people are calling their family members over, because then that causes confusion. And I read in the report where then her brother's coming over. These other family members are coming over. That's not a good situation to be in. So how are you all addressing your issues? I can't order marriage counseling because I don't have any jurisdiction over her. But how are you all addressing your disagreements?
All I can say is that everything's fine and there's no more disagreements.
Oh, there's disagreements in every relationships. I don't care how people say their relationship is great. Even I'm sure Cinderella and the prince that she ended up with have disagreements. Maybe the mice are tracking in dirt or something. But every relationship people have disagreements. How are you handling those other than the police having to be called or her family members having to be called?
We just talk to each other better. Talk to each other better, I guess.
All right. Are you employed?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do?
I handle quality and logistics for a box plant.
I'm sorry, what?
I handle quality and logistics for a box plant.
Okay. And what does that mean?
I handle the quality of different fibers for material to make boxes.
Boxes of, you mean just
corrugated boxes.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna need to talk to you. My boxes are always breaking down. I'm assuming you're not the person who put the stamp on that box. That's somebody else.
Don't have quality to it.
Okay, that's awesome. And what are your hours like?
I work 7 PM to 7 AM.
Oh, wow. That's the night shift. All right, this is what the court is going to do. $100 fine, probated, 2 years deferred adjudication, 100 hours of community service restitution. 40 of those hours will be waived if you provide proof of the COVID vaccination. The court is not requiring you to do that, but if you do, 40 of those hours will be waived. I'm going to ask for parenting classes, and the remaining of those hours will be waived. Anger management, regular reporting by Zoom or in person, proof of employment within 30 days, no employment as a home health care provider or with minors, regular UAs, and we'll do field visits for 2 months. Probation, if there are no issues with field visits, then field visits can be discontinued. Probation, is there anything else he needs? I'm sorry, and also no contact with Gabriel Artalejo or an Arundel. Is there anything else you need from the court to be successful? All right, in this court, communication is key. You want to be successful on probation, stay in contact with your probation officer. If there's any issue about something you feel you're not receiving or communication is not being answered, we're always here in court. You can come by. All right, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning. So what are we here for?
It's a request for early termination.
Ah,
I have
Yeah,
the motion if you don't.
yes, I don't have the motion. And have you had a chance to confer with the state?
I did, Your Honor, and as well as.
It's calling 2021 CR 7282, State of Texas versus Charles Garley. Could I have parties announced for the record for the state?
Jason Beer, Your Honor.
Defense?
Mario Morano.
All right, and are you Mr. Garley?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Defense has filed a motion for early termination. State, did you have a chance to review the motion?
I did review it briefly. Your Honor.
All right. Do you have any objections to the motion?
Yes, Your Honor, we're opposed to it.
All right. Defense, do you have any witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor, just argument.
All right, probation. Can you give the court probation's recommendation?
There is no opposition.
All right, defense, I'll hear your argument.
Thank you, Judge. So as far as I have been made aware from probation and from Mr. Garley, he has completed all terms of his probation with the exception of the completion of his term in limited, including but not limited to classes, community service. He's paid all of his fines, court costs, has checked in when requested or required. The only thing remaining at this point in time is for Mr. Garley to finish his remaining term. He was sentenced to a 2-year deferred term back in March of last year. So he's completed just a little over a year at this point in time. My understanding, he's been a model probationer. I worked with him in the underlying case as well. He's always been very prompt for court. Very respectful as well to me. I believe that at this point in time, Mr. Garley has proven himself to the court that he has taken responsibility for this cause, is ready to move past and move forward. And we're requesting that this time that the court grant his early termination.
All right, anything you wish to say?
No, ma'am, I'm just ready to put this behind me.
All right. I think you should probably say something because honestly, I'm leaning towards not early termination. I've read the facts of the case and I'm trying to figure out what was going through your thought process at that time. That's what I want to know.
Yes,
Can you raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
yes, ma'am.
All right, you can lower your hand, state your name for the record.
Charles Garley,
All right, what have you learned?
keep my hands to myself and just to be a model citizen.
All right, so why did this happen? What was going through your mind? Because it appears that the officer was there for a disturbance.
I was not aware of that. I opened the door and I know the police were there and they barged into my home and I was trying to defend myself.
Well, what I'm reading in the steps, and people correct me if I'm wrong, they come because there's a disturbance. There are 3 other people there, including you, civilians. You have a gun, according to the report, at your side.
Yes, ma'am.
One of the other civilians, because the officer asked you to put the gun down, you wouldn't. One of the other civilians there took the gun from you. So that diffused that situation. And then the officer was asking to talk to you and step outside. And then according to the steps, it says that you were swinging on the officer.
No, ma'am. I was not aware the officers were there. I was actually in shock because when I opened the door, guns were pointed at me. The reason my gun was out because somebody was in my home at the time that I did not want there. I asked them to leave. They did not leave. When, again, nobody in the house called the police. I think the disturbance was me trying to get that person to leave out of my home. When I opened the door, I didn't hear any knocking. I opened the door to let that person out of my home. And that's when the police were there. And I had my pistol pointed down. And that's when the officers pulled out their weapons on me. And I was in shock because I didn't know anybody was outside of my door. There was no knocking or anything. I had opened the door myself to let that person out.
Okay. So you open the door, you let the person out.
No, he did not leave. I opened the door to get him out. Like,
Okay.
Like he needs to leave. And that's when officers were there. And I had no idea they were there. So I was in shock because guns were pointed at me. And that's the first time I've ever had guns pointed at me. So I was in shock.
But first time guns pointed at you by officers?
Not anybody.
Okay. Any other questions?
I guess I would have a question, Your Honor, just to clarify, because you did say something and I just want to, I guess, clarify for the court about the facts of what had occurred, if that's okay.
I'm sorry?
I said, I do have a couple questions just to clarify about the facts of what
Sure.
occurred, if that's okay with the court.
Yes.
So the judge stated that the officers were asking you to come out, but is that correct?
No, sir.
When they had drawn their weapons on you, and then you were at some point you were disarmed, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then did the officers ask you to step out, or did they enter your home?
They entered my home.
Okay. And at that point in time, is that when they tried to detain you?
Yes, sir.
And then that's when the physical dispute happened between you and the officers?
Yes, sir.
But you have taken responsibility for those actions back in March of last year, right? So you do understand that the way that things occurred between you and the officers at that point in time was unlawful.
Yes, sir.
And you understand. Do you understand, and can you explain to the court how that probably should have played out?
I should have just complied and put my hands on my back.
I no further questions.
Any questions? All right, let me just tell you what I have in the steps here. And if there are some corrections, let me know, but this is what you all stipulated to. P1 knocked on the door. His sister stepped out and explained there had been an argument between her and you. P2 stated she was getting her stuff with the help of her family and that she didn't require the police to calm you down. While speaking to P2, I could hear P1 and S1 exchanging words to each other. When myself and the officer looked through the open door into the apartment, I could clearly see a silver handgun in the right hand of you. Myself and the officer both drew our firearms from our holsters and commanded the arrested person, well, S1, to drop his firearm. You ignored our commands. After commanding you a few more times to drop the weapon, then P2 reached over and swatted it out of your hand. At this time, we entered the apartment and stated to you he was being detained due to the nature at which he was displaying the handgun and the disturbance that had been occurring. You physically tried to close the front door on us and then physically resisted arrest by pulling away and pushing against both officers. We ended up pushing you onto the sofa, at which time you began to strike out at the officers. It says you were punching wildly and punched me once on the upper left side of my cheek during the confrontation, causing pain and some redness. I used physical force in order to gain control from you, including multiple closed fist strikes to the right side of the face. After being struck by myself and tased, eventually you were placed in handcuffs. So is there something that is wrong about that?
The only thing wrong with that is I didn't throw the first punch. When I was throwing the couch, the officer punched me in the face. And
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said I did not throw the first punch. When I was thrown on the couch, the officer punched me in my face, and that's when I felt the need to defend myself.
Okay. All right, anything else?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Nothing further.
All right, if you're drug tested today, what are the results going to be?
So,
All right, give me a UA. The court heard previous arguments from, I believe, Mr. Wilkins. And they've informed me that your UA was negative. All right, so here's the thing. Sometimes on probation, people need to do the full term of their probation because it's the nature of the offense and that's what it is. And then other times you have people who've completed everything and probation is telling me they completed everything and they come to court, they UA, they test negative. It appears that they've got their life in order. Probation is overworked and underpaid. And they have a lot of people on their list of people to see and what to do with them. Your counsel informed me that now you're only reporting, I think, once every 3 months. Is that correct?
yes.
All right. So that tells me that probation feels that you successfully completed everything. You've internalized what you did and we won't see you here anymore. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So the court will grant your application for early termination. Is there anything else from either side?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor. Not from the defense, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we can go off the record. Hey, don't come back here for nonsense. When people knock at your door, whether you think they should be there or not, that's stuff that you handle in the court system. You understand?
Yes.
All right, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.